Hello, everybody. This is Comic Book Hangover. It is Monday, so that means it's time for a mini Monday, and this is going to be the last one that I do for the month of October. So this will be the last one that is of a Halloween horror theme. So I decided to go back to a series that ran. It was a three-issue series that ran from October 1995 to January 1996, which means it skipped a month. So we got October, November, it skipped December, and then concluded in January. Written by Nancy Collins, with art by Jeff Butler from Topps Comics, Jason versus Leatherface. Three-issue miniseries. It is, as far as I know, the first comic book appearance of Leatherface in a comic book. It is not the first comic book appearance of Jason. He's had other books before this. Topps adapted Jason Goes to Hell. He made an appearance in an issue of Satan's Six, a Jack Kirby property. I don't know. I do have it, but it really wasn't that not a whole lot to write home about. So this one, as I said, it's written by Nancy Collins, whose name is familiar, but I don't exactly know her. She did some stuff for DC. She wrote on Swamp Thing from 1991 to 1993. She's written a bunch of books. She's sci-fi horror writer, and apparently she was a fan of Friday the 13th, but wasn't too very familiar with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, which does kind of show in this. So the basic idea of the story is Crystal Lake is being developed. So he's wrapped up in chains and he's down at the bottom of Crystal Lake. He gets dredged up with the other pollutants. Apparently, Crystal Lake in this story is so polluted that and so toxic that they really can't do anything more than to drain it and build over it. So they dredge the lake, scooping up Jason, puts him in a train. He escapes in the train, causes a little bit of havoc, causes a minor train crash, kills everybody on board, ends up in Texas, and ends up with the family of Leatherface, who in this one they're not the Sawyers, they're the Slaughters, and I guess hilarity ensues. So we have Jason in sort of a rather dysfunctional but still a family unit setting, something he's not used to. And if you got Leatherface dealing with somebody who can actually go toe to toe with him. So that's the basic idea of the story, such as it is. I mean, it reads like a 90s horror movie, so not so much for the plot. But okay, so let's talk about the things that I liked about this. It was nice seeing Jason outside, and let's go to issue 2 here. It's nice seeing Jason in a setting that was very unfamiliar with him. I mean, since then we've seen him in space, we've seen him fight Freddy, but in this story here, he's actually dealing with a family, and a family that will defend each other and will stand up for each other and does have love for each other, although they're quite psychotic and they're killing people and eating them and that sort of thing. But still, they're a strong family unit at the end of the day. It stirs up some feelings in Jason that he's not used to. It's in a way. This is one thing that I like and didn't like about it. I like that they tried to add something to Jason's character, but they also try to humanize him. He expresses confusion over why he's not trying to kill these people and why he has this connection to Leatherface, who is picked on and beaten by his brother, who is the hitchhiker. It's got some very confusing moments in it, but character-wise, I mean, Jason still does what he does. Leatherface still does what he does. And also, I gotta say before we go any further, the covers, the Simon Bisley covers on this miniseries are amazing. Probably my favorite part of the whole thing. But that said, so there's really not a whole lot in this at the end of the day. If I'm being perfectly honest, it was a fun read. It's as far as the actual story quality go, I would say the story quality is about Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. It's about the quality of that. And anybody who's seen that knows it's got some good gruesome stuff. It's got some good characters in there. But as far as story and characterization and dialogue is kind of blah. But that's not what we watch these movies for. There are a few things in here that kind of confuse me as far as like where does this story take place in the continuity of the two different franchises. As far as Leatherface goes, it's pretty easy to decide to see where it takes place. It takes place basically around Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 because they're doing the barbecue, Texas Chainsaw 2. They do introduce an aunt. I can't remember what her name is, but at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, she's they kind of you kind of see her. She's this rather fat woman in a chair, and she's got a chainsaw. She's in this book, and if you remember the end of that movie, you know who I'm talking about. And Grandpa's in there. So it takes place around Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. As far as Jason goes, it's really confusing where he fits because he's chained at the bottom of Camp Crystal Lake, which is he ended up there at the end of Part 6 and Part 7. But his look, and Hitchhiker even makes a comment how his mask looks like it grew into his face. That's more kind of Part 8, but mostly Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday. So I guess the best thing to do is just sort of read this and sort of divorce yourself from any of the continuities of the stories as far as like where in the timeline does this fit, because you can do it kind of easy with Leatherface, but not so with Jason. Other things that they kind of messed up on, and this is kind of a big thing for me, is the name of Jason's mother. Now, Jason's mother has always been Pamela Voorhees. In this one, her name is Doris. Makes no sense. It's not even close. I guess there's even a guy who I guess is Jason's father in this. Jason has these flashbacks from when he was a kid, and it's the same guy who was abusing him throughout all the flashbacks. And if Doris had a series of boyfriends, it would only make sense that the guy would look different, but he doesn't. So it kind of makes me wonder if this version of Jason we're actually seeing his dad, and his mom's name is Doris. So I mean, there's a few things like that are kind of wonky, but trying to dig into the positives of it. It's fun. It's mindless 90s horror movie fun. Like myself, I said I know the shortcomings of a movie like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, Leatherface. I know the shortcomings of it, but it is one of my favorites in the entire series because I like the way Leatherface looked. The Excalibur saw is just gorgeous, and just overall, it's a fun story. It's a fun idea, I guess, and we kind of meet more of the Sawyers. So this one here, we don't really meet any new Sawyers, but we do learn more about, like, the hitchhiker has a hobby, and his hobby is he likes to make things out of human remains. Like he made a flower pot out of a skull for Grandma, and he made a rocking chair out of bones for Grandpa, and he was really bragging about his Christmas decoration, which was a cadaver dressed as Santa Claus. They had a red light in its nose, and he was so proud of how it lit up. The cook, W.B. Sawyer, who in one of the Chainsaw Massacre movies has been told, I think it's the beginning of Part 2, either Part 2 or Part 3, but it said that he was captured, he was put on trial, and he was executed. But in this one, he's still around. He has aspirations beyond being a barbecue cook. That being a barbecue cook that kills and disembowels and dismembers and cooks people and makes them his barbecue. He wants to open a high-end fancy restaurant, as he says, with the cloth napkins and the crystal glassware and all that sort of stuff. So it's cool to see that these characters have aspirations beyond what they're doing, well beyond their abilities and their temperament, but they have things that they want to do. Jason they do get into Jason. As I said, they get into his past, and they get into basically in this story, it's explained that his main reason for killing is since he died as a child, and since when he was alive as a child, he only knew abuse, he only knew hate, he only knew pain. So his drive as Jason as we know him is because he hates the idea that there's people around that know love, that know caring and sympathy, and he wants to destroy that. And that's his drive. That's why he does what he does, because he's trying to take from everybody else that which he never had, which makes sense in a way, but it also kind of humanizes him more than I like. The only character really that doesn't get a whole lot of depth to him is Leatherface in this, and he's one of the title characters. He's kind of been reduced to uh, I don't know, like a crybaby, essentially. When his first confrontation with Jason, Jason knocks his chainsaw out of his hand. And he throws a fit like a baby. Jason gets to go on a killing trip with Hitchhiker. Leatherface is crying, and it's just he becomes this big blubbering crybaby, and that's not really the Leatherface that we know and love to an extent. But he does form a sort of bond with Jason. It's like they both understand in their limited mental capacities, they both understand that the other is a lot like them. There's something in there that makes them do what they do. They don't truly understand what it is, but there is something there, and they do what they do because that's what they do, essentially. So at the end of the day, it was an interesting read. I hadn't read this since I bought it back in the mid '90s, 95 to '96. I haven't read it since then. And as far as how well it stands up as well as any sort of early mid '90s horror movie. Anything like like again, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. It holds up as well as any of those movies will hold up. It's not high art. It's not groundbreaking. It's not life changing. It's just a one and done story where two titans of terror get together and they sort of duke it out, but then they kind of team up. The only thing that I wish they would have done in this book that they didn't do is have Jason and Leatherface go on a dual killing spree. Just they even if they come across a party or something, just to see the two work together and kill as many people as they can would have been awesome. But within the restraints of what they were allowed to do in these books, I'm sure they couldn't do something like that. But that said, the Jason versus Leatherface miniseries has a lot of faults. It has a lot of stuff going against it. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, brass tacks, it's a fun read. And I would recommend it. Not highly recommend it, but it's one of those books that if you are flipping through back issues and you come across it and it's not like if it's not $10, I wouldn't pay a whole lot for this. But if it's reasonable price and you will and you think that's a fair price for it, pick it up. It's worth having in your collection, especially if you're a horror fan. If you're a fan of Leatherface and you're a fan of Jason and you're a completist of any kind, it's definitely a book worth having. It's worth a read. It's a fun read. It's very mindless. There's really a lot of disconnects and sort of of certain things, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't highly recommend it. I would say it's worth getting, it's worth owning, but not worth going out of your way for. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So, Jason versus Leatherface 3-issue miniseries from Topps, October 1995 to January 1996. Written by Nancy Collins, art by Jeff Burr, covers by the iconic, legendary Simon Bisley. Could have been much better, but for what it was and what they were able to do at the time, because I'm sure there were licensing issues and licensing, other people involved in what they could and could not do. It's probably why we didn't have a whole lot of fights between the two, because there might be ownership issues. But it's fun. It's one of those books that you want to have in your collection where if you're showing it off to people, somebody will pick it up and like, okay, explain this. Why in the hell do you have this of all books in your collection? Sort of like the reason why I have movies like Sorority Babes and a Slime Ball Bolorama and Killer Condom in my movie collections, because I enjoy them, but it's also nice to see people's reaction when they see them. So that's it. That's pretty much all I can say about the book. I mean, it's nothing. Like I said, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing life-changing. It's a fun, sort of stupid, one-off, mindless story. You read it. You enjoy it at the moment, but as soon as you're done with it, you're ready to move on to something else. But the covers are amazing. I mean, I would say if for nothing else, let's go through these covers one more time. If for nothing else, the covers are worth having in your collection. These covers are great. Simon Bisley is an amazing artist. Anything he does, anything he touches, turns to gold in my humble opinion. Because it's just great stuff. So that's it. That's pretty much all I can say about it. Have you checked it out? I mean, does anybody out there actually own this book besides me? And what do you think about it? Have you read it recently? what's your opinions on how well it stands up, as far as the story style, the art, the covers, that sort of thing. So let me know what you think. And yeah, comment down below. Slap that like button. I mean, if you made it to the end of the video, you might as well slap the like button. I mean, what the hell? Why not, right? Subscribe and hit that notification button so I will start doing some of these videos in advance, so you'll be able to know in advance when I've got them coming live. And yeah, comment down below, share the video, and all that fun stuff. And I will see everybody on Thursday with my next weekly haul, weekly review video. Everybody have a good night.